This is a meeting of the Consolidated Commission on Utilities. It's a work session for the Guam Waterworks Authority. For the record, those present are myself, Commissioner Enchalco, Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Santos, and Commissioner Martinez. And our General Manager is here with us today. So Miguel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the issues for decision, we just have two for you this morning. The first is Resolution 08 FY 2023, and this is in regards to amending GWA's sewer hookup revolving loan rules and regulations. If you recall, we conducted a analytical study on the cesspool and septic tank elimination as part of our 2020 FY20 through FY24 comprehensive review and update of our financial plan as ordered by the PUC. And some of the recommendations of that study included trying to make the sewer hookup revolving fund program more useful to our customers. And so the proposed changes to the rules and regulations regarding that program are the subject of this resolution. We're asking to increase the maximum loan amount from the current $9,000 to $20,000 per applicant to more align with what actual 25? Sorry, 25,000 per applicant to align with what the actual costs of construction are that we're seeing for a typical connection to existing sewer lines. We also are asking to increase the loan term from 10 years to 15 years for any applicants receiving public assistance, and to waive the requirement for 3 contractor estimates if sewer connection can be included as part of a GWA capital improvement program.
Okay.
And then also to make it easier for the applicants, we're requesting a decrease from rejected loan applications or removal of that requirement if the applicant is receiving public assistance. And then to provide additional funding for the revolving loan fund and to defer payments for 5 years for customers who are willing to connect to a sewer main when it's built.
Okay.
So these recommendations all have fallen out of that analytical study. We've already drafted revisions to the rules, and we are seeking to add what was appropriated by the legislature in the 2023 Budget Act of an additional $2 million for the revolving fund. So we'd like to be able to use that and increase the amount available to our customers to, apply for participation in this program. As to when we can complete this project, we are, if we need to follow the AAA process, it'll take between 6 months to a year to complete, and we will need to include notices and public hearings to the compiler of laws of the legislature and the PUC. The funding source for this, the original revolving loan was funded at $75,000 from Guam EPA, and we would add the additional $2 million that was appropriated in the Budget Act.
There's $2 million appropriated from the general fund?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good. That's great.
We already have.
Already have the money. Okay, good. Commissioner Sanchez.
A couple of quick questions. How many people actually have borrowed money from? 3? You have 5 fingers on the hand. You only raised 3 of them? Wow. Okay. So, I mean, we know this has been a challenge to get this thing going, and plus sewer lines are expensive. So, I mean, it's a great idea. How many more? And then if they have any of the 3 ever defaulted, and what's the remedy on a default? They've already connected. What, we turn off their water till they current, or? Ooh. Oh, when we make the loan, we actually. So it's a loan, and we record a lien on it. We'll share that with EPA when we do rooftop. Okay. I didn't realize. Okay.
Commissioner Limchaka.
Yeah. How many homes do we estimate need to do this, or ideally?
When we did the report, it was a couple that are within 200 feet of existing sewer lines.
Oh, that's all?
We looked at neighborhoods, established neighborhoods, the same amount of Guam, and go out looked at subdivisions that already have sewer lines and do not have people that are connected or are not paying. So we have a process in place to smoke test, identify who exactly is connected, who is not connected, make sure that everyone connected is paying for their sewer charges. And then we need to work with Guam EPA in order to contact the folks that are not connected and start the process and notify them and get them eventually connected to the sewer system, and that's where the loan comes into play.
Guam EPA has the enforcement authority within the 200
Hmm.
to force compliance. We don't have that.
It's 200 feet.
And are there more areas, are there areas that are more critical than others, such as like people near wells or other?
Absolutely. We worked with the Water and Environmental Research Institute at the University of Guam, and they did a linear regression analysis of all our wells, looking at nitrate concentrations, and identified the wells where we have rising nitrate concentrations and the highest concentration. So we've already identified the priority locations to extend the sewer lines. Right now, we're looking at the Atacao area in Manila by Atacao Elementary School, and we're getting the design contract finalized so we can start the design to bring in the sewer in that area, which is all septic tanks and probably cesspools as well. Much of that area is also land trust property.
And so what is the plan for continuous funding? Because even with both of these budgets combined, you're looking at like 85 houses. So like, what is the plan for, if there's over 1,000 residences apply that fall under this? Like, what is the next iteration of funding? Are we just assuming that we're going to get it in every budget from the general fund?
No.
We have the United States Environmental Protection Agency priority lists that have been approved from EPA, and the septic tank loan augmentation is one of those projects. So it's ranked very high on that list, so we can always reach out to US EPA as long as we have the grant funds and propose that in a work plan every fiscal year to request approval for augmentation of the sewer loan fund.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yeah, so I mean, this has been a chronic issue because how many wastewater customers do we have and how many water customers?
42,000 approximately on the water side, and about 34 maybe on the.
Yeah, 34 have actually connected, so that's why I thought it was a bigger number, but that's an 8,000 difference. We're already suspecting there's at least 1,000 houses, and it makes sense that we're looking closest to the well. But I know politically, because this was attempted many years ago, the biggest political challenge is the governor authorizing U.S. Guam EPA to turn off Chris's water power because the house he got from his grandmother on a septic tank 30 years ago. Now there's a sewer line nearby that wasn't there 30 years ago, and the governor's going to tell EPA, please turn off the Sanchez Santos family
water.
and more, make them come up with 20, 30 grand, or make them come up with 20 to 30 grand, which first 80 houses gets taken care of at $2 million. There's another 1,000 plus, thousands more. So it's in need of a longer term solution, kind of like the legislature giving $2 million, because the challenge for us is we wouldn't want to raise WA rates on everyone else to pay for the Sanchez's connection to a sewer line, right? So it's a challenge. There is no easy solution on this one. Thank goodness we were able to get $2 million, but if you've asked the right question, it's not been a sustainable effort, and the magnitude is huge. And but at least focusing on those places closest to our wells is, that's how you kind
The
of
most
start
priority
eating
area.
the elephant, right? One piece at a time. Start in the areas that are higher risk and kind of work.
Yeah. Commissioner Santos.
The definition of public assistance is public health, or what are we using?
I think the criteria is if they're on the SNAP program.
And if you're not qualified for the loan program at all, right?
No,
You still can.
Oh, you still can.
Yes.
Oh,
Just
as long as
the
you're not
requirements are minimized.
Yes, so they'd have to be declined from loans from, right now, the requirements are 3 banks on Guam, 3 commercial banks, and we'd like to reduce that to two commercial banks. It's just so difficult for for folks to go in, take time out of their day and try to apply for a loan that they hope they don't get.
Are we calling it banks or lending institutions? Bank, you get a little bit more protection, right? I mean, you're favoring, you want to be really sticky, local bank.
It says bank.
Well, can you check on that
Lending
for Tuesday?
institutions, or what's the preference? Because it's our rules, right? Not the lending institutions.
Savings and loans.
Well, whatever you want to call it.
I'm going to suspect banks are the lower interest rates though of all of them.
Yeah. Again, but good question. What's the interest rate that we there?
Well, the board I'm on, banks are much lower. You know, I mean, just think of all the finance companies.
You asked about the
This
program?
particular
I think
local.
we're tying it to USDA home loan interest.
Okay. Commissioner Taco.
So I'm still trying to find like the incentive for anybody to want to do this if their septic tank is working properly. So they got to get a loan, then they have to pay for sewer rates now, right? So I think we need to think about some more creative ways to incentivize people, like maybe a waiver of sewer rates for X amount of time. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm just saying I don't see a lot of people jumping on the bus if, one, I got to pay more, and you're going to put a lien on my house, and I got to pay for added rates monthly. It's just like, if my septic tank is working properly, unless there's, an environmentalist that, is really concerned with this, I don't see a lot of people jumping on board.
So I don't know on the disincentive side what the EPA, Guam EPA fines and penalties might be if they don't comply. But that's the other side of that coin, which right now we're not proposing any changes to that, but it's something that we've been talking about.
So,
EPA about.
okay, maybe there's a misunderstanding on my part then. So, it's a law that you have to connect to the
If you're
sewer.
within 200 feet of an existing sewer.
And there's no grandfathered septic tanks. I can understand if it's new construction, but now you have to connect.
It's within 5 years of a public sewer line becoming available within 200 feet of your building. Typically, it's a residence. And that 5-year term reduces if your septic tank and leaching field is not functioning properly, or if it's a cesspool or a latrine type of on-site septic system.
How old is this law that frankly not been enforced?
Under Guam EPA regulations, I don't know how old it is, but
Can let us know on Tuesday.
yes.
I mean, the issue is it's not new. The issue is earlier. DEPA can enforce these rules now. But what is their alternative if Mrs. Sanchez doesn't apply? So, and we were a perfect example. There was a new development next to our house, come on, and the new guy needed $15,000 to connect to, maybe it's 500 feet, a little bit further, but the logic was right. And he approached all the neighborhoods and said, "You guys want to help pay into this $15,000?" We all said no, because we've been on. Dad built the house. The Ariolas built the house in the 1950s with a septic, right? And so, you said you got to come up with $15,000 to connect, and now you have a sewer line, and then many people can afford it. Others find it far more problematic. This will help, but like you said, it's only going to help once you get to house 87, 80. Got thousands more to go. But from our point of view, I think you do it. It's an improved program. Miguel or us can magically convince the legislature. Yeah, and maybe it is something we work with the legislature. This is a long-term. This needs a long-term solution because right now it's not being enforced as what's on the books. And why is it not being enforced? Your option for DEPA is, Sanchez, come up 15, 20,000, 30,000, connect, or else I'm turning off your water on a house that was built 50, 60 years ago. How many families like that do we know that are going to call up their favorite governor and senator going, "What are you talking about?" And that's why, in effect, even though it's on the books, enforcement has a challenge. At least we have a bucket of money to start. We can improve the program, and let's see if we can chase down more. Sharing with you, just we looked at this a number of times, and I think you can all do the political calculus. People said 3,000 of you have to turn off your water.
I know, but for myself, I think we also need to do an educational campaign, maybe out of KIPA, to explain what the effect will be on our aquifer. Because as those nitrates level, no, you have to understand, if you screw up that aquifer, that means our grandchildren are not going to be able to, it's going to cost them a lot more for the water. It's something that it's a little bit of a juggle, painful. Maybe we need to work more on it, but it's a step in at least starting the process and going down the road. And I would rather we start to work on this now than just kind of ignore it. And
To me, this is the easy part. He's got $2 million. He wants a better program. I agree.
Yeah.
Better program. The challenge would be when he runs out of $2 million, then would it?
Yeah.
And if the legislature hadn't given Miguel $2 million, I don't even know if he'd be fixing this program because we got 3 applicants.
Yeah.
We got 3 people on the program.
That's the main goal. I'd like to see more than 3.
Yeah.
We all,
I think that's the issue.
Not yet worried about getting additional funds. I'm more worried about getting additional applicants.
Yeah.
So let's improve the
Because, yeah.
No problem. No question. We do that.
On the, where it says deferred payments for 5 years, that is with interest accumulating?
You're saying sewer
Deferred
line,
interest
sewer
or
line,
deferred
sewer
payment?
hookup, sewer cost fees, right? That's what you're delaying, not
No, the
not the
payment.
loan repayment. Is that what you're saying?
Deferred
The
payments.
$25 a month, or
Yeah,
whatever
say
sewer
what-
is. Yeah, you would waive
What is
that.
your interpretation then?
Yeah. And if you're not sure, that's a question to write down for Tuesday night.
That's
Okay?
what you mean by waiving the fee, right?
Yeah.
The monthly sewer fee as an incentive.
No, I think we're talking about.
The loan payment.
Yes, that 5-year deferment was referring to the loan repayments, not the monthly sewer service charges.
I think it aligns with
Oh, to make it.
5 years in the EPA law.
Correct. So people, it's to incentivize folks to not wait the full 5 years they have available to them to connect, so that if they connect now and do it as part of one of our projects, they avail themselves of the loan, that they don't have to pay back another 5 years. You're right, would have to pay for the monthly sewer service charges.
So we just need to put that word loan, for loan payments, 5 years. Have we made that decision? What do we charge, if any? For the 3 people that are on, are they charged interest?
They are.
Oh, okay. So you're not changing any of that in your proposal?
Well, we're
right?
changing, the interest rate is stated in the
Oh.
rules as a fixed rate. What we're saying is we'd like to tie it to
Something.
USDA home loan.
Okay. Something. Great.
Okay? Something we have to address. It's not going to be a simple
We're
solution.
nibbling at the elephant. but
Yeah.
There's a lot more bigger pieces to, but let's do it.
Next on the agenda, Mr. Chair, is item 2.2, and I'll ask the AGM of Administration and Support to present this one.
There you go. The next item up for decision is resolution number 9, FY 2023. And this is relative to the creation of an engineering intern position and to amend the junior engineer, associate engineer, senior engineer, project engineer, engineering supervisor PE, assistant chief engineer PE, chief engineer general manager for the positions for the Water Works Authority. There's 2 main objectives behind this resolution. One is to create the engineering intern position, which we currently don't have, to bring in engineering interns, but they're coming in under engineering technician 2 position. This is to create an actual intern position with the duties and responsibilities of in their day-to-day. And then the next objective is to amend all the existing engineering positions in the series. And there's several reasons that we want to amend all the positions in the series. First is to improve recruitment. Current position classifications require a degree from an ABET accredited college, and currently UOG is not ABET accredited. So we've not been able to bring in UOG graduates into the junior engineer position. I will note that both NAVFAC and GPA do not require accredited degrees. So this removes that from all our positions. So that's one of the main amendments in the series. Additionally, the engineering program has further evolved. So the engineering team, supervisors as well as HR, did an exhaustive review of the duties and responsibilities of all these different positions and have better aligned their duties and responsibilities for each position so that there's more of a cascading responsibilities for each, more room for growth within the organization. Future. Then lastly, there was a technical correction to approve the position class for the senior classification for the senior engineer position. When that position was created back in, I believe, 2010, it was created by the resolution, but position classification itself was omitted. And so just to avoid any issues with civil service down the road, we're putting that in there, so it's more or less a technical.
Commissioner Santos, wait just a minute.
And just two additional things. The resolution also seeks to allow the GWA general manager to remove duplicate and or obsolete engineering positions from the CTP list as deemed necessary. So an example might be the chief engineer position. Once an assistant general manager is hired, that position may no longer be needed. And then upon approval and creation of these amendments, GWA shall conduct a timely reclassification audit on current employees, and the determination of the findings should not adversely affect or impact any employees.
Okay, Commissioner Santos?
Chris, can you send us by Tuesday the breakdown between our GWA, GPA, and NAFAC? So we see the scale of how it works in these positions. Because I'm telling you, we cannot find an engineer at GDOE for multi-million-dollar projects. It's just not possible. Because I think we're paying our engineer at a starting salary of 50 grand. So it's just not possible. And I've been blamed for every single person that leaves GDOE because they're running to GWA and GPA to get hired either in the engineering positions or in the accounting positions.
Yeah, we told them to blame you.
Yes, that's okay. Thank you.
Is the government allowed to use the same H2 programs as the
Yeah, but
private
we
sectors?
can't. It's just that it's our salary structure.
No, I know, but if you can't find people, on the private sector, right, we can bring in H2s with the qualifications. I'm just
You can
just
forget
asking.
that at GDOE. That's beyond. That's not allowed.
Not going to happen.
Chris, you have an answer?
We don't have that created.
Yeah?
I do not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have never.
I thought we can only get them.
I think it should be asked because the private sector is able to do it. You got to do a announcement. You got to show a need, and if you cannot fill the position, then you can bring it in.
We can
I
clarify
don't.
that
Yeah,
on Tuesday.
yeah. You can get that, please. I just like to see where the scales are,
Yeah.
because I understand that we're like here and everybody else is down here.
But we also have to check the wage determination too.
I'm sure they
That's what's
you
right.
did that, right?
We have a basis.
Yeah. So again, it'd be nice to see where we're really at, and then what percentile does this bring this set of employees to within that nice?
Alan Cyril has been working on our update for the market compensation study, and both GPA and GWA spoke to him specifically about the engineering series and the
Cases, right.
So he is looking at that in more detail, and there may be some suggestions that he could.
This doesn't even address it.
We didn't want to wait, though, with
No,
bringing
we
this
agree
forward.
with you. I mean, I get it.
We
Yeah.
can do this.
And then I forgot to add, there is no change in the structural pay at this point. It's using the existing pay scale. So these amendments, there's no change in pay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. We're keep making improvements. I like that idea. Small improvements, but steady, and that's the only way we can make this improvement. I mean, GPA and GWA have done a great job, and this helps us do a better job in the future. Okay? Okay, what else, Miguel?
If you will please the commission, we can go through the management report.
Sure.
So, for the operations update, we have information from both November and December, since we didn't have the...
What page you on, Jeff?
Sorry.
20 and more folks. If I'm reading it right.
Yeah. Starting with production, for November, our monthly production averaged 38 million gallons a day. We had a total of 89 active wells as of the end of the month, with 20 grounded and 11 out of commission or secured for PFOS. In December, that number went to 38.7 million gallons a day. The number of wells that were in operation remain the same.
Miguel, before you leave that, I was reading Collins' report. He was saying overall water consumption is down year to year. Even though commercial has gone up, we're seeing a drop in residential. I'm just curious, how do we, on the one hand, we're producing, looks like steady water amount, but we're having, Collins' report correctly, we're having less consumption. Kind of going, okay, if we're pumping the water, but less people are using it, how do we reconcile that? Or I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it between now and.
So the production rates are a result of our operations with the objective of making sure that we have sufficient levels in the reservoir and that sufficient pressure in the lines. That will not necessarily directly translate to what the demand is. So that is the manner in which we reconcile it. The difference between those two, if there is less
Usage.
overall demand in
versus-
all customer classes, but continued production, the difference is obviously what we lose through
Or
line losses.
your well inventory might have up a little, drawing out less. I mean, to me, as long as you're aware of it, and I was just trying to reconcile in my mind on the financial side, Collins seeing a drop in consumption. I'm with you on it. We're steady in producing water. Our job. But like in any business, you're going to go, wow, I'm producing as much, but my customers are buying less. Where's the difference? Inventory, leakage.
So we won't
other
be able
challenges.
to make those types of adjustments until our water loss control program, completely effective and we're down to where we need to be. Then if demand drops, we can continue to have the same number of wells in capable of being operated, but we can put more on standby as needs be. But again, the other factor that affects is the wells don't pump only to fill the reservoir. The wells pump to fill the reservoir, but all the customers connected between the reservoir and the well are being serviced by the pressure that the well provides.
And
So
you're maintaining the pressure.
until we correct that and everything is distributed off the reservoir, then can we take a well offline and not have to worry about it affecting service pressure.
That's a
There's a-
longer term.
Yeah.
Balancing it.
So
All right.
we won't be able to make that
You've
complete.
answered it. I mean, she's selling and collecting more on the financial side. You're still creating the water on the supply side. We have an understanding, and you have an understanding with well inventory, and we've got leaks. Everything still need 38
Right.
MGD.
But the goal is to reduce the production. Moving on to the Tumon Maui well for November, output was consistent at 1 million gallons a day. We did have one day of interrupted service. Similarly, in December, in early December, we had interrupted service for part of the day. But overall, we're steady at 1 million gallons a day production from Tumon Maui well. On the distribution side, all of our booster pump stations, the overall operability at 96.6%, is holding steady over the past several months, and we like it at that level. Did not change between November and December, 96.6 operability for the booster pump stations. For distribution tank levels, you can see in November we did have a dip in the south resulting from some breakages, main line breaks. We did manage to, by the end of the month, pick those levels back up. And we are seeing a similar situation in the north now. We've had some issues had some issues at the end of December, which brought the levels down. But we're working to try and correct that. For wastewater collections for November and December, our pump station operability was at 90.7% in November and 89.6% in December. So we're still working at picking those numbers up. In terms of our CCTV inspection and cleaning for the wastewater system, the collection system, in December we met our annual goal, but we didn't have a lot of actual cleaning production in the month of December. For wastewater treatment, for November, we generated about 400,000 pounds of sludge and disposed of it at a cost of about $36,000. And then in December, slightly less at about 378,000 pounds at $34,000 for sludge disposal. And you can see the average flows for November and December were pretty stable, down from the heavy rain month we had in October. On our asset management program, the ratio of corrective to preventive maintenance is 26% corrective and 74% preventive maintenance work orders. And then in terms of completion for the corrective maintenance, we're at 91% complete of work orders issued, and for preventive maintenance, 83% complete of the work orders issued. For corrective maintenance, leak repairs versus equipment repairs, of all of our corrective maintenance work orders, 54% were for leak repairs and 46% were for equipment corrective maintenance. And the completion ratios for that, 97% of all leak repair work orders have been completed, and 91% of all equipment corrective maintenance work orders have been completed. Moving on to our One Guam. First item, the Tuma Maui. Well, we did have an inspection we will have the next inspection in January. There were no issues with the October. That would be the fourth quarter inspection for calendar year 2022. No issues, no major issues reported for that inspection. So we're still doing good in terms of maintenance and operation. On the NGLA Deep Observation Well project, we have, as of December, have completed all the work. So at the time for this November update, we still had a few to finish, but we're all done now with those projects. So we're in the process of closing out that project in accordance with the OEA grant requirement. There are still some property transfer issues which are stalled. The one with regards to sewer lines in Nimitz Hill. The Navy did not agree with the SHPO's determination for turning those back, or turning those easements over to Gov Guam. And so I guess the Navy sent them a letter giving them a timeline to respond, and if they don't respond, they're just going to proceed with sending the documents directly to Gov Guam for the transfer of those properties. We have some other issues where we're coordinating with the military for a sewer line in Marvo. They gave us permission to proceed with surveying. There's some water line issues. One up at Tulare Point. We're looking for an alternate connection as a redundancy for Northern District. So we are, that has to go, all those lines were turned over to GPA. So the permission had to be sought through GPA, and I think that is making its way. They should have already gotten a response from the Navy, and then we'll coordinate once GPA gives us approval. And then the other one is with respect to Cabras. There's a water line that DOD wanted to turn over to us previously. We declined to take it because they had an improvement project to upgrade it before they turned it over, which they canceled. So we said, it's okay, we don't need the line. But apparently now GPA wants the line, so I think they're making, they're coordinating so that the Navy's going to turn it directly over to GPA, and they'll be responsible for the maintenance of that older line. I think it only serves one of the power plants. And then some ongoing coordination work with regard to upgrading the model for the capacity on the sewer interceptor. I think that'll confirm that we have adequate capacity because we've seen the flows going into Northern District, even with the heavy rains. It has not fluctuated, so we've been successful at keeping out the INI. So we think with the model update work, it'll validate that we have additional capacity. On the court order summary, no change there, still at 98% complete approximately, and that won't change until we finish the tank projects, which we are currently working on. We did have several SSO events in December, which are shown here. This number for January is going to be pretty high. We've got a lot of issues with the heavy rains that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. And so continue to have those I&I issues in other parts of the system, along with issues with the pump stations going offline because of power fluctuations and things like that. There isn't anything to report on the land acquisition summary. Everything is still kind of bogged down. There wasn't a lot of progress made over the holiday season. On the leak reports, the only item to note here is the daily leak repairs through December of 2022. The backlog is still below 20, which is where we want to keep it. So our guys are doing a good job of knocking out the leak repair work order. Just want to go through the receivable.
So for the accounts receivable for residential customers greater than 60 days, there was very little change between November and December, holding steady right at pre-COVID levels around 980,000. I will note that since March 2022, there's been like a slow drift back to that level, and it's leveled off. I'm attributing that to likely some of the assistance programs tapering off. COVID is kind of keeping those numbers. On the accounts receivable commercial side, greater than 60 days, there was a significant drop off down to $15,000 in about 40 customers in December. So we had a couple customers that had some large numbers make payments. Very low levels on the commercial side.
You'll find in your financial statements and using the ARPA money that in December and about talk a little bit about at the bottom of you can also see here our moving went down in December and days that we did see some increases. And next sheet, just a picture of our and you can see lesson.
Colin, can you, on page 116 of board books, did I read it right? We actually lost some money in November, 719,000? You know, well below budget, due to and compared to last year, part of it was due to a decrease in federal grants. In other words, last year we got a federal grant. This year we didn't. Are we worried that this monthly loss, you know, it's rare that we lose any money. Is this, are you worried about the 719? Is it kind of I know the power bill is going to drag down earnings, right? Nothing we can do about that per se, and no one's surprised that you budgeted for power and power's not hitting anybody's budget, or it is in the wrong way, right? Everybody's. But I just want to, are you worried that we lost 719,000 in November and it was 3.2 million less than budget? You had hoped, you and Miguel hoped you'd make about 2.4. Then when we lose a nickel in November, are you worried about it, or what's your sense of it?
We pretty much used up our deal. There's going to be a little. We happen to.
Right. So without that grant, though, are you worried going forward, since we're now not less reliant on grants? You worried about, you know, and you got your one rate adjustment. Are we petitioning for another one for the next fiscal year? No, well,
We are.
wanted, right? But there is the promise of another one subject to true up, and I guess these numbers will affect true up, right? So, okay, this is the new reality, and there are some real costs impact, like power. Right, right. This is the money from the governor that when the governor did the governor give us, so what, 15 million, I think it was, PWA?
So 12
million, okay. But now that's not coming, so I mean, so we're a little tight right now, it seems to me. Yeah. No, but I'm just on a going forward basis, we're a little tight right now. You're not getting another 12 million from the governor. Yeah. That's why over the next few months, we should expect some differentials when you compare this year to last year because of these. Okay, thank you.
Commercial.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Darling, or Miguel, future borrowings, timing, what's the guesstimate?
Great question.
Sorry, I asked.
So, we're trying to get additional bond authorization and the tax-exempt commercial paper authorization in the last legislature it installed. And so we have to pick those efforts back up now that we know how the legislature has shaken out. So that we need to get that in place first, and then there's a whole series of steps that need to be taken to establish a tax-exempt commercial paper program. In terms of what our needs are, based on the 5-year plan, we were looking at a 2023 issuance. Now, well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was about, I want to say 60 million.
Awesome.
But because of the delay in the tax-exempt commercial paper program, if we're still going to use it, and if the market conditions are such that it makes sense to use it, then we would be doing a smaller annual increments through the tax-exempt commercial paper program and then do a takeout. The takeout now will likely fall outside of the current 5-year program.
If you can get, okay.
So the other factor that's affecting the issuance is, and the amount of the issuance is what we can use the grant funding for. So we have a clearer picture of that now, the amounts of US EPA grant funding. That will require an adjustment in our forward-looking CIP. Right now, we're currently undertaking review and update to the master plan, the 20-year master plan, and part of that involves taking a look at the CIP and factoring in what's going to be included in the consent decree, potential consent decree, and then what other emerging potential regulations are going to impose capital improvement projects on us, and any changes to.
So you're thinking, ideally from your point of view, assuming we get the legislative authority, 60 million-ish plus or minus would be a commercial paper issue?
Well, we would take it in bites using the commercial paper, and then we would do a takeout for that.
And who sponsored the bill for you in the last?
Hadn't gotten to that point. We had pitched it to our oversight chair and then also to Senator Sinagus.
So we need to go back. It would be Senator Perez with one possible source. He's still our oversight.
Still our
oversight.
And then I'm guessing he would be at least in the past, it was usually the oversight chair was the most likely source. We have traditionally a good ally in the Ways and Means, Senator Sinagus, whether he'll do it for us or maybe you can guide us or we can all think about it. Who do you want? Do we have the legislation ready?
Yeah, we have draft legislation that was prepared by bond counsel.
Okay, so maybe
kind of ready to go.
you will take our cue from you if you need help, but let's find a senator to introduce it so we at least get the conversation going.
Yeah. Commissioner Santos.
When do you guys plan to, when do you plan to brief senators, you know what's going on?
She's asked for a meeting already
Next week?
this week.
This week?
Yeah, end of this
Do you
week.
want us present, or you guys can? No, we don't.
And I like being present. I mean, we've often been helpful in getting
She's,
legislation.
She's now a rhino, so you guys can have it.
Six is
Okay,
a,
okay,
six is a
now,
good number
now.
in that legislature apparently.
No.
But not enough. It's
Okay.
good, but it's not enough.
Counting to.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's exactly
Democrats
right.
don't know higher math.
Okay.
But our oversight chair, I mean,
No, I'm
it's
just
up to you.
saying,
If you want us at the briefing or not.
They need to be briefed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She needs to be briefed.
Yeah, check the pronoun. And then,
She would hopefully have a representative for 10 meetings.
yeah. I mean, it's been traditional. Usually after
you have to go to
the new CCU, we update
Right.
the
Okay, so-
oversight. And especially if this is a tasking you're seeking from the legislature, to me, it's natural that we would ask for oversight. Would you consider helping us with this bill? Here's the legislation, and let's see as part of that brief. 'Cause
That request has been made, and so we can, plan was to bring it up again. So we will update you on the timeframe and whether requests are.
or just let us know if you want to. If we want to show greater. We don't.
You know, if it's just her, she's inviting her committee.
Sure, I think
Okay.
as a start.
Let us know when.
Maybe send it to the chair and vice chair, since you'll have both parties represented. Well, I mean,
Do we know?
there's a vice chair and
Who's the vice chair?
Do we
a
know who the-
Republican.
No, but do we know who it is?
No,
I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah.
by the time she comes in, she should have her, done their homework and got the committee.
Okay.
I'll try to find out, but I mean, if it never hurts to brief as many senators as possible. Like you said, we got to get to 8.
Okay. There you go. Let us know.
That we will be asking. So we will be asking for executive sessions to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tuesday. Okay. Anything else? No.
Sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
So-
Thanks, everybody.
Who's the vice chair? That's a good question.
Fisher.
Oh, is he? Oh, perfect. Tom Fisher.
Who's the